And I'm just going to do a few housekeeping details, so to speak, and then Jim Albertini of Marijuana is going to introduce our guest and Wright. First of all, there's an informational table. You saw it coming in. If you get a chance on your way out, be sure to meet Khaki Kennedy, who has a number of things going on that are very interesting and some information about them. Restrooms are down back by the elevator. If you need an alternative to stairs, there's a ramp at the back of the room that you can use to bring you down to this area. This is sponsored by Model INA, Center for Nonviolent Education and Action, the Philosophy Department, the Sociology Department, and Women's Studies here at UH. Can I ask you to turn off your cell phones or put them on vibrate? Let's see. Just to go over what's going to happen tonight, Jim Albertini will introduce our guest, as I said, who will talk about this issue for about 60 minutes. We should have ample time for comments and questions, so I'll ask you to please hold them until that time. And we'll have this discussion facilitated by Dr. Tim Freeman of the Philosophy Department. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jim Albertini, who will be introducing our guest speaker for tonight.
Well, I first want to really thank Marilyn Brown and Tim Freeman for really opening the doors to make this evening possible. Not only this evening, but anybody who passed the library of Lanai today from 11 to 1 saw a replica of a Reaper drone we had on display there. So that was also made possible through Marilyn. And it's an important kind of partnership between the community and the university to have a session like this. Before I introduce our speaker, though, a few housekeeping points myself, really recruiting points. I want to appeal to all of you to join, if possible, the weekly Peace Vigil at the downtown Hilo Post Office tomorrow, 3:30 to 5, every Friday. Tomorrow is the 591st consecutive week. And each week we do a new leaflet. We can end the wars, we can stop the peace vigil. But tomorrow's leaflet is on the lawful law protest that for Saturday. That's the second point. That here we are today is the 120th anniversary commemoration of the overthrow of Hawaii, where military force was used to overthrow the government of Hawaii. So Saturday we're having this protest to protest the continued bombing of Wapelloa and the use of drones up there, all kinds of drones and trains. And so I urge you to pick up a flyer if you haven't already seen one of these about this protest. As you leave, it's on Kaki's table there. And help recruit some others. Join this protest on Saturday. And the third thing is on every one of our flyers, on every one of these leaflets, is the Maluaina webpage. And if you go to the webpage, there's a place to sign up for peace alerts, actions. You can get the weekly leaflet emailed to you every week. So please, I urge you to sign up on the webpage. So the vigil, the protest, Saturday at Wapelloa, and the webpage. Now, to introduce our speaker. Those who've seen the long version of this event read Anne Wright's background. It's really amazing to me. I was going to go through it, but I don't want to elaborate again for those of you who read it. But Anne is a lawyer by training, a law degree, and she has 2 master's degrees. She was 29 years in the Army as a colonel, 16 years in the State Department as a diplomat. And but the most remarkable thing to me is the stance of principle she took on the eve of the Iraq invasion, when she resigned her post in protest of that invasion. There are very few people that have the courage of convictions to stand up. And then not only that, but for the last several years now, she's been involved in nonviolent direct action, peace organizing all around the world. And her voice just adds credibility to the message of the United States killing machine, what it's doing today. So I think we're very fortunate to have her here, and I'm honored that she's part of the peace movement here, and to know that she's gone to jail to to stand on the principles. So please welcome our friend Ann Wright.
Thank you very much, Jim, and thank you, Marilyn and Tim, for arranging for us to have this evening. And I want to thank Jim in particular. I mean, he's been, how about 591 weeks of having a vigil for peace. And also, since you brought up jail, I might as well just elaborate on that a little bit. I've been in jail just a few different times, peaceful nonviolent protest of administration policies under first the Bush administration and now under the Obama administration. I'm an equal opportunity critic of all of them, just like Jim. And at dinner tonight, someone had mentioned that they saw in the newspaper that 25 years ago was when Jim Albertini went into federal prison for having jumped in front of a ship, a nuclear-powered ship coming into the town of Hilo, and he went to jail for how long?
It was a 3-year sentence. I was kicked out after a little more than a year for that.
3 years. Well, I am very new comparatively to this issue of challenging our government's policies. As Jim mentioned, I've been in the U.S. military for 29 years. I retired as a colonel. I was a U.S. diplomat for 16 years. I served in Nicaragua, Grenada, Somalia, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Sierra Leone, Micronesia. I helped reopen the U.S. Embassy in Kabul, Afghanistan in December of 2001. And then I was in Mongolia as the deputy ambassador when I resigned in March of 2003 in opposition to Bush's war on Iraq. Many of those years that I was in the government, many of you all were out with Jim protesting many of the policies that I was involved in. So I'm a new person in a way to this challenging. I was a part of the system for a long period of time. It didn't necessarily mean that I agreed with every policy of the 8 different presidential administrations that I worked under, starting with the Johnson administration during the Vietnam War. That's when I joined the military, during the Vietnam War. And if you think of all of the presidents, the 8 presidents of, let's see, Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Reagan, Carter, and then Reagan, then Bush 1, then Clinton, then Bush 2, and now Obama. But I wasn't in that one for that. But if you think of all of the policies of those various administrations, those of you all who were alive during some of them, now, because we do have, thank God there's some students here that weren't alive during all of those, but those of you all who were alive through most of those, how many of you all were out on the streets protesting something that all those administrations did? Yeah. And those of you all who have been, who weren't alive through all 8 of them, I mean, has everybody here had some bone to pick with some administration over something? Yeah. I would think so. And it's not all going to be the same ones, the same issues that you're concerned about. But I think one of the things tonight that we want to remember is that it's our right and really our responsibility to challenge our government when we think there are programs and policies that are not good, that are really harming us as citizens. And if we think that something's illegal, unlawful, that our own government is doing something that's wrong, criminally wrong, violating either our own national laws or international laws, that we have the right and the duty and responsibility to speak up. So that's why I resigned in 2003. It wasn't that there hadn't been plenty of other things the government had been doing before that were wrong. I, like so many people that have been in the government, I didn't resign over things. I mean, for the Iraq War, there were only 3 people in the entire federal government that resigned over the Iraq War. And yet there were lots of people in the government and millions without, outside the government that were totally opposed to that war. I mean, how many of you all were marching in opposition to the U.S. invasion and occupation of Iraq? I mean, it was the largest marches in the history of the world. But now that I'm out of the government, I can speak my mind freely, then that's where I've started being a little more active and challenging government policies of war, of torture, of prisons, of, oh my gosh, you name it, and it seems like we've been a part of challenging these administrations. And the latest challenge that a lot of people are working on is the one we're going to talk about tonight, this issue of drones, unmanned aerial vehicles. Unmanned aerial vehicles, okay, nobody's sitting in them, nobody's guiding them in the plane, they're being guided from afar. The U.S. government says these are really good planes, particularly for the military, because you don't have to have a military person in them and possibly being shot down, killed in them, or shot down and captured. That they really protect our own military forces. And that is one, that's why they say we need to be using them. On the other side of it, like any military weapon system, if it's being used in violation of international law, then we have the responsibility to challenge it, even if it may be saving American lives. But are we killing others in violation of international law by using them? And that's really what we're talking about. There are two parts to this as far as the military is concerned, or that the U.S. government is concerned. We have drones that are being used, weaponized drones, like this one right up here. You can see it firing off. Here's a Reaper drone firing Hellfire missiles. Boy, aren't these names something? Reaper, Predator, these are the names of the two main weapon systems that we have that are U.S., primarily used by the U.S. military. These are Hellfire missiles that can blow up buildings. They are big missiles. The Predator drone is not just a little tiny drone like this. This is with the wingspan of a 727. These are big wingspans. They are much less expensive than F-15s, F-16s, our fighter jets, our bombers. And that's another reason why the military likes to use them. The U.S. government likes to use them. They're a little bit cheaper than these other weapon systems. But when you have these types of things that are being used, well, let's see, in wars, okay, how many wars do we have declared right now? Zero.
Korea only has an army.
Three.
Technically one.
Well, let's see, we had, the U.S. Congress finally authorized, let's see, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq. That one, the war in Iraq is finished, supposedly. We do have a declared war in Afghanistan, so the U.S. military says, well, declared war, we can use any weapon system that's not outlawed by international law. Although we do sometimes use weapon systems that are outlined by international law, like cluster bombs, and let's see, what else? What else do we use? Landmines. Do we ever put landmines down? There are now international laws against using them, but the United States of America is not a signatory to those conventions. The drone, is there a law against using a drone in a declared war? Anybody know? Actually, our government says no. I mean, we've declared war in Afghanistan, so we can essentially use anything we want to on those Afghans. Let's see, is that, we're at war with the people of Afghanistan, is that right? No. Well, who are we at war with? Al-Qaeda? Let's see, Al-Qaeda. Now, how many Al-Qaeda people does our military, our intelligence agencies say are in Afghanistan at any one time?
Less than 50.
Less than 50, usually 5. let's see, but there's that pesky group called the Taliban. Now, were we at war? That was the declared war on the Taliban? No. It was the war on terror was Al-Qaeda, but at the same time, let's just go out and take out this group called the Taliban that allowed Al-Qaeda to use Afghan territory. So it's now 15,000 is what our intelligence agencies say are the number of Taliban. If every person who's declared loyalty toward the Taliban digs up their weapons and brings them out all on the same day. Let's see, and how many U.S. soldiers do we have in Afghanistan now? Down from 120,000 to about 70,000 right now. 40,000 NATO troops, 80,000 U.S. contractors. We now have more contractors than we in Afghanistan than we have U.S. military. Then we have, our mission really now is training the Afghan military and national police up to 300,000. So if you total all those numbers up, you get about 500,000 people in Afghanistan that are challenging 15,050 people, the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. And that's why we have to use drones on them. Drones, these unmanned aerial vehicles. Let's see some more of these as we here's the Predator wingspan 55 feet. Here are the Hellfire missiles, each 100 pounds in weight, 5 feet long. Here's what they do. They're pretty, they carry a lot of firepower with them. They can blow up a lot of things there. But not only are we using drones in Afghanistan, where we have, in fact, Jim, maybe we can hand this little handout out. In Afghanistan, we don't really have a total figure of how many drone strikes have been made. Just in the last 4 years, though, there have been 1,273 drone strikes. And as you get this piece of paper, it's going to have listed on it the numbers of drone strikes in both Afghanistan and then Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia. 1,273 drone strikes in Afghanistan, but we don't know how many people have been killed because nobody's really keeping track of it. Isn't that an interesting thing? We don't keep track of how many people we say we killed. But that's in the declared war. What about the undeclared wars that we're in, where the United States is using this weapon system in an undeclared war? How about in Pakistan? Now we have declared war on Pakistan? No. So why are we now having drone strikes in Pakistan? And are they legal? And who is doing them? Who's firing the weapons? The CIA. Oh goodness, that's it. What does CIA stand for? Central Military Agency, right? CIA. Central Intelligence Agency. Now, how did an intelligence agency get involved in firing off military weapons? See, this is really where we're getting into a dilemma now, where our country is, in the eyes of most everybody in the world, with the exception of like the Brits, is being looked at as a violator of international law. That we are firing these missiles in Pakistan, and this on that one it says that there have been, let's see, 297 drone strikes. Well, if you actually update it now with what you see here, there have actually been 304 drone strikes. And just this year, there have already been 7 drone strikes. In 2013, with 40 people killed in just this year alone. The Obama administration has been using the drone strikes as its kind of signature weapons system.